WWE presents Night of Champions this Saturday, June 28, 2025 from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. The event will feature several high-profile championship matches, the finals of the King and Queen of the Rings tournament, but it also could feature the return of several high-profile WWE superstars. Could Paul Triple H Levesque and his creative team have some big surprises up his sleeve in the form of returning WWE superstars? We'll let you know which stars could be set to return at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia this weekend in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin today's countdown video, you can see right there, we are less than 300 subscribers to go until 23,000 on that road to 25k in 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell. You need to be notified because we've got several big live streams coming up at the end of June into July, including this Saturday for WWE Night of Champions. We'll have a live watch-along and a live post-show. In addition, as we get into July, we're of course going to have live watch-alongs and post-shows for AEW All in Texas, WWE Saturday Night's main event, of course Goldberg's retirement match, and WWE Evolution, the return of the all-women's premium live event from WWE. But today, we're talking about Night of Champions. Night of Champions set to take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia from the Kingdom Arena this Saturday, June 28th. And we have got several high-profile title matches, including the likes of CM Punk versus John Cena, the finals of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. But also, we could have some major returns from WWE superstars that have been absent for a variety of different reasons. Let's get into 5 names that could be set to return in Saudi this weekend at Night of Champions, beginning with Omos. Now, Omos has been absent from WWE television for the longest time, hasn't he? Omos last competed in a WWE ring in April of 2024. It's been close to 18 months since we've seen Omos last compete for WWE. He competed in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in 2024 on the last episode of SmackDown going into WrestleMania 40. And since then, we haven't seen him compete. He didn't compete for the rest of 2024. He has wrestled this year. It was a slew of matches for Pro Wrestling Noah. He went on an excursion from WWE to Pro Wrestling Noah in January of this year. He actually wrestled several matches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches for Pro Wrestling Noah, actually winning the GHC Tag Team Championship in the process. That was all in the month of January. Since then, he got recalled by WWE. His time in Pro Wrestling Noah came to an end, and we haven't seen him since. Now, some thought, is Omos going to be among the latest round of WWE releases? There have been several stars that have been let go from the company this year, as more main roster call-ups took place from NXT. Was Omos going to be among the names let go, or is his contract not going to be renewed? Well, actually, quite the opposite. In an interview in just the last month or so with Gambling Industry News, Omos revealed he'd signed a new multi-year contract with WWE. He said, quote, "Things are going very well. Can't complain. I'm really excited about what is to come. I've been training really hard and working on some new things, and I think it's going to be a really fun ride ahead, especially because I just signed a renewal with WWE and will be there for years to come." So despite the fact that he hasn't been wrestling for WWE, the suggestion would be that maybe he's been working at the Performance Center, or at the very least, WWE does have plans to use the Nigerian Giant once again on WWE television. When he's going to return, we don't know, but Omos is no stranger to competing in Saudi. He's competed in Saudi before. He's a former champion in WWE. He was a former Raw Tag Team champion alongside AJ Styles. And you never know when he could show up next. And as we get into some major events for WWE, getting closer towards the likes of SummerSlam and other big events, maybe Omos might return this weekend in Saudi. It might be the perfect time. You never know who he could be aligned with or what he could get involved in, whether it's a possibility of joining Solo Sikoa in the Bloodline, even though he doesn't really fit in that storyline. Maybe he costs Randy Orton or Cody Rhodes the King of the Ring final. Perhaps he could get involved with Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross. Maybe he could be a bodyguard of such for Karrion Kross, as Kross gets a bit of a push on WWE television, which a lot of fans have wanted. There are certainly creative ideas of which he could get involved this weekend in Saudi. So Omos, you think if he signed a new deal and WWE clearly has some kind of working plan for him, maybe now's the best time to bring him back. Maybe he could return at Night of Champions this weekend. What about Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa? This one feels like this is a real possibility, doesn't it? That we could see the former WWE Tag Team Champions return to WWE television. Now, in the form of Tonga Loa, let's start with him, of course. He competed in the War Games match at Survivor Series War Games last November, November 30th. He, along with the Bloodline and Bronson Reed, lost to Roman Reigns, the Usos, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk in a War Games match. Now, after the match, it was revealed that Tonga Loa had suffered a torn bicep and he'd be out of action for 7 to 8 months. Of course, that was in November, right towards the end of November. We're in June now, heading into July. It's around 7 to 8 months since that injury took place. So that would suggest that he should, assuming that everything's gone well in his recovery, he should be ready to come back right now. In the case of Tama Tonga lasted a little bit longer, but earlier this year, on the April 18th episode of SmackDown before WrestleMania 41, LA Knight assaulted Tama Tonga in the parking lot on the show, smashing his hand through a door. As a result, he was written off television due to an unknown injury. Now, with Tama Tonga, again, we don't know the severity of the injury or anything like that, so it's tough to say how long he was going to be out for. If this was just a case of it was a minor injury, but they thought, let's write him off television to get some steam into the LA Knight Jacob Fatu United States Championship match at WrestleMania, maybe that's the case. In addition to that, of course, we've seen Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa's brother Hikuleu having dark matches prior to SmackDown in recent weeks, so we could see the next chapter in this Bloodline storyline, and that could be the return of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa assisting Solo Sikoa in their match against Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship, but maybe the former Gorillas of Destiny aren't enough to put down Jacob Fatu. Perhaps we see a situation where Tonga Loa comes back, Tama Tonga comes back, and still Jacob Fatu can't be pinned by Solo Sikoa, so they call for even more backup in the form of their brother, the giant that is Hikuleu, and maybe that puts down Jacob Fatu, and once again, the Bloodline, or Solo Sikoa's faction version of the Bloodline, is at full strength with the likes of JC Mateo, Hikuleu, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. So these guys returning to WWE television, you feel like it's got to be very, very soon, particularly as this feud with a newly turned babyface United States champion Jacob Fatu and the heel Solo Sikoa is carrying on to develop. You feel like these guys coming back feels like the next step, possibly bringing even more backup with them. So don't be shocked if Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa return to WWE television this Saturday at Night of Champions. Now, Kiana James is a name that has been brought up in these countdown videos before. The reason is because the expectation is she should be back on WWE television very soon. Now, Kiana James, when she was called up to the main roster from NXT, we never really saw that much of her. On night one of the WWE draft in April of 2024, James was drafted to the Raw brand. On the June 3rd episode of Raw, James defeated Natalya in her main roster debut match. On the June 17th episode of Raw, James competed in a triple threat Money in the Bank qualifying match. It was won by Io Sky, and then she disappeared from WWE TV. The assumption, according to a lot of reports, was that she had an injury. She was removed from the internal WWE roster, from the active in-ring competitors part of it, and moved to the miscellaneous section, which means usually they have a long-term injury. In April of this year, James revealed that she had been dealing with a knee injury in what has been a very long recovery for her. But the reason that many people are expecting her to come back very, very soon is because she's been backstage at TV tapings recently. Of course, it's been almost a year, well, even longer, since we saw Kiana James last on WWE television. She last wrestled for WWE. But according to a report from Fightful Select recently, the long-injured performer was backstage at a recent episode of SmackDown in Lexington, Kentucky. Now, she didn't appear on the SmackDown broadcast at that time, but there was a suggestion that indeed she could be back soon, or at least in the process of getting cleared to compete. In addition to that, Corey Hayes of PWN recently reported that WWE are very high on Kiana James and her work ethic and dedication while rehabbing her current injury has, quote, caught the eyes of a few in the company. Now, she's been on the shelf for quite some time, and where could she get involved if she did return at Night of Champions? Well, you look to a couple of different points, don't you? You certainly could look towards the Queen of the Ring tournament final, Jade Cargill versus Asuka. Kiana James, you would think, would be working as a heel, so maybe she aligns herself with Asuka in this situation. Of course, Asuka without the backup now of Damage Control. Damage Control as a faction is no more. Perhaps she could arrive in the street fight with Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. We see a situation where Rodriguez doesn't have Liv Morgan by her side anymore. The likelihood she's got Roxanne Perez by her side, but maybe they need even more backup, and that could be in the form of Kiana James. So there are certainly areas there where Kiana James could get involved involved at Night of Champions. So given the fact she's been backstage at WWE television tapings recently, either in the process of getting cleared from the injury, maybe discussing creative plans, I wouldn't be totally shocked if the former NXT superstar returns at Night of Champions this weekend in Riyadh. Now, what about Rey Mysterio, the WWE Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio? Now, he's been out of action since just before WrestleMania. Of course, heading into WrestleMania 41, Rey Mysterio was scheduled to compete against El Grande Americano in singles action on night one. However, just 24 hours before the event on SmackDown, he wrestled in a six-man tag team match alongside Rey Fénix and Dragon Lee against American Made, where the WWE Hall of Famer suffered this legitimate injury. Following the match, Mysterio was seen limping up the entrance ramp and being carried out of the arena by WWE officials, with the company revealing that he'd be unable to compete the next night, and he was eventually replaced by Rey Fénix. Eventually, we found out a bit more about the injury that Mysterio suffered. It was later revealed that Mysterio had undergone surgery for a torn abductor muscle, also a torn groin. In addition to that as well, he'd suffered, I think it was a burst eardrum, something like that. Now, at the time, the suggestion was that he could be back anytime between 4 to 6 months, which would put a return around July, possibly August. In addition to that, Dave Meltzer said in a more recent edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that his return was slated for August, possibly late summer, early autumn was also something Conan said. But as you can see right there, Rey Mysterio did appear at the recent AAA and WWE Worlds Collide event in Los Angeles. Of course, part of WWE's acquisition of AAA Lucha Libre. Mysterio is going to be playing a big part in that. We're at the end of June now. By the time Night of Champions airs, it'll be the 28th of June. Now, maybe Mysterio doesn't get physical or something like that, but it's not impossible he could show up and possibly fend off an interfering, let's say, Judgment Day in the street fight with Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. That could certainly be a possibility. Now, Dominic Mysterio was scheduled to defend his Intercontinental Championship on this show, but that match was cancelled as Dominic Mysterio wasn't cleared to compete against AJ Styles. So if there maybe were plans for Rey Mysterio to return and maybe get involved in that match, maybe I suppose they could be changed. But Mysterio is closing in on a return, so having a Hall of Famer there to certainly, these are high profile and big paying events for WWE, and they like to stack them out as much as they can in terms of star power. Rey Mysterio even just appearing in front of the crowd there in Riyadh, I wouldn't be totally surprised by that, but it does look like Mysterio could be set to return later on, maybe July, August, something along that time period. And finally, Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair must be near a return. Surely she must. Now, of course, Bianca Belair, we haven't seen her compete since WrestleMania 41. Night 2 of WrestleMania 41, Bianca Belair faced Io Sky and Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship, which she lost after being pinned by Sky, ending her WrestleMania undefeated streak. It was a match that was critically acclaimed, an absolute fantastic match. But she suffered an injury in that match. We didn't see her for a while, and on the April 25th episode of SmackDown, she revealed what many people had speculated on social media, because she'd made some posts on social media, that she had suffered broken fingers on her left hand. She'd be taking some time off to heal. But as we get closer to a big summer for WWE, particularly SummerSlam, and of course Saturday night's main event coming up soon, WWE Evolution, the return of the all-women's premium live event, many people are expecting that Bianca Belair will be back in the ring soon. Now, when it comes to rivals and how she could possibly come back, Naomi recently won the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase. She later tweeted about the victory by asking Bianca Belair if she's proud of her former tag team partner. Now, it has been reported that she could be scheduled for a return sometime ahead of SummerSlam, which of course is scheduled for August 2nd and 3rd, 2025. So many people are kind of thinking, well, if she's going to be returning for SummerSlam, she'd have to return pretty close to now to start that build. In addition, the expectation would be that they would want to have her involved at WWE Evolution. That's on July 13th, and that's only a few weeks away at the time of recording this video. Now, what match could she possibly get involved in? Well, the obvious one you would think would be the Queen of the Ring tournament final. Jade Cargill is competing against Asuka. Maybe we have a situation where Naomi tries to get involved in that one and cost Jade Cargill the match, cost Jade Cargill the tournament, because she doesn't want Cargill to have a Women's World Championship match or a Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. That should be reserved for Naomi, who can cash in at any point. Maybe that's where we see Bianca Belair return and defend her former tag team partner against her other former tag team partner. That certainly would make a lot of sense. So Bianca Belair set to return very, very soon, and the wheels could be in motion for her comeback as soon as this weekend at Night of Champions in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So there you go, guys. There are 5 WWE superstars that could be set for a major return this Saturday at WWE Night of Champions. Once again, you can see right there, we are less than 300 subscribers away from 23,000 on that road to 25k. We want to get to 25k in 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. You can also become a member of the WN365 roster. Links in the video description below. You can also click the join button or scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. In addition, speaking of that sidebar, you can see all upcoming watch-alongs and post-shows, live streams we'll have here on the channel. That includes this Saturday for WWE Night of Champions. We'll have a live watch-along and a live post-show. We'll also have live watch-alongs and post-shows for the likes of AEW All in Texas, WWE Saturday Night's main event featuring Goldberg's retirement match, and WWE Evolution, the return of WWE's all-women's premium live events. I appreciate everyone for tuning in as always, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.